On this episode of the Dudes and Dads podcast, we talk with our good friend Caleb Kaye.
You're listening to the Dudes and Dads podcast, a show dedicated to helping men be better dudes and dads by building community through meaningful conversation and storytelling. And now, here are your hosts, Joel DeMont and Andy Lehman.
Andrew.
Joel, you can't even get it right.
Guys, this is what happens.
Welcome back to our studio. The last time you
I was in a hotel room and I left you alone.
You left me for I don't know what, but you left me.
Yeah, I had the worky stuff. Yeah. Oh gosh, what a day it's been here, Andy. How are things with you? You good?
I'm good. I mean, it's been sunny and not sunny for a few days.
Gosh.
And I'll like
it's been. We were just talking about this before we started. It's been a brutal early. We'll call it fake spring.
Oh yeah, it's been terrible.
It's been terrible, and we're waiting. As we're entering the month of May, we are looking to actually see sunshine. I don't want to be greedy here, Andy, but let's just say let's just try for some 60-degree weather. How about that?
I'm cool with that.
I'm not asking for miracles. Just no frost. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
No frost.
Yeah.
It is funny. On my wife's side of the family, we have cousins that live up in north central Wisconsin. They've got a good foot of snow on the ground.
Jeez.
Right now. So whenever it's bad and I feel like I should get all kinds of grumpy, I just say, at least I don't live in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. That's what I say. Well, Andy, we want to begin the show, obviously, just by, as always, thanking our good supporters, all the people over at the Patreons, the Patreons, the people.
Yes. You guys help keep this show on the road, afloat. There we go.
Financially viable.
Yes. So you keep us going, and we love that. So
thank you.
Yes.
As always, you can head over to Dudes and Dads Pop. Why do I keep saying pop quiz? Pop. I'm on the pop quiz. That comes at the end. You can head over to the Dudes and Dads podcast.com/support.
Yes. And that will get you over to our Patreon. It feels like we haven't done this show in forever.
Yeah. It's a little, guys, we're going to get all the bugs out right here at the beginning. It's going to go smooth sailing as soon as our guest comes on. So we do have
without further ado,
we want to bring
Caleb on. Caleb, welcome to the show. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. I am glad to be here.
Oh, Caleb, that's so kind of you.
Joel.
Caleb, we really try to put on a professional. Yeah, you calm down. We really try to put a professional show on here, and it does feel like I'm getting back on a rowdy horse, if we can say that.
It feels like
a rowdy one, if you will.
All flustered. You're like, oh, Caleb's on tonight.
Yeah. Well, Caleb is a good dear friend of both Andy and I. We've Caleb, it's been, I don't know, we've probably about 5 years ago that we've met now, I guess.
At least,
I'm going to brag a little bit. I got to hang out with Caleb since, quicker than you have. I mean, yes. I hung out with him in February. You've been with him
physically back in February in the Florida.
Yes. Yes, you weren't
in the
there.
warm.
Man.
Still salty about it. Yeah, absolutely.
In the warm weather.
Hey, Joel,
yes,
you remember that time we were in Florida and you didn't come?
Yeah.
You weren't there?
Yeah. Thanks for...
We remember it. It was really rough.
Caleb and I hung out.
Thanks for bringing it up. So glad you guys could do that. Yeah. So Caleb's a good friend. Caleb's got another, Caleb is one of our many friends who has just a really great story that we're going to, great, interesting, challenging story. There's probably a lot of adjectives we could throw on there.
Unique, if you will.
But Caleb, we always like to start off with, so we can just get to know you a little bit better, have our listeners kind of know what you're all about. We always like to start with what we call the dad stats. So tell us about you, what you do, who you're married to, who your kids are, how old they are, maybe even
all of the stats,
all the things, and even some things you want to share with them that would be potentially embarrassing. That's fine too. This is really your chance to really just put it all out there, whatever you'd like to. But yeah, please introduce us to you.
All right. Well, I am me. I'm Caleb, and I live in Annapolis, Maryland. Well, I live outside of Annapolis, but if I tell you I live in Bowie, nobody knows where that is.
I tell people have to look it up.
It has nothing to do with David. It's just Bowie.
Yeah.
So I live outside of Annapolis, and I am married to Melissa, who I've been married to. We're coming on to our 18th year of being married, and that's a long time. Our marriage can vote, which is interesting. That's a newfound awareness we got. And I have 5 kids. I have 3 boys and 2 girls, James and Josh, Jesse, Juliana, and Josie. Yeah, we named them all Jays.
You were those people.
Kind of wasn't intentional. It just happened. The first 2 were an accident, and then not the kids weren't an accident. The names were an accident.
To be clear,
your kids are finding out all kinds of things if they listen to this show.
Yeah, they're like 35 feet away, and this is the beginning of their therapy journey. Yeah, they're going to start therapy tomorrow. No, so we named the first 2 with J's, and then we were like, well, the third one will be left out. So we did the third one, and then it was just done at that point.
So what's your age
they're all
range?
J's.
What's your age range on the kiddos?
So James is 15. Josh is 13, about to be 14.
Mm-hmm.
I probably don't know all of my kids' names. That's a really bad. When you have 5 kids, it's really hard to know all their ages.
And then
we get it.
What's bad is your kids are like, Dad, how can you forget? And it's like you'll know eventually if you.
There's
have kids.
a lot of numbers and dates to remember when you're our age. I get it. Yeah.
So there's a note in my phone, and it's called Important Things. And the only reason it exists is because I was standing at the doctor's with one of my kids, and they were like,
that's pressure.
What's his name? Yes. What's his birth? And I was like, I don't know. And she looked at me as if she was going to call CPS. And I'm like, I have 5. And she was like, oh, you poor soul. So then Mel made me a list of everything on there. So my youngest is 6. My oldest is 15. They're all stair-step. The first 2 are 17 months apart. Then there's 19 months apart. And then we took a little bit of a break. And then Josie has brought up the rear and is putting us through our paces.
Attaboy. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah,
the youngest, the girl, she's in charge.
Mm-hmm. She
is
tracks.
in charge. Yeah, it does track.
That's our mom.
So pastored. Yep.
Yeah.
Pastored for like a lot of years. I pastored for pushing 15 years, and my wife and I started a faith-based nonprofit about 3 years ago called Revive, and we work primarily in dealing with social justice issues, food insecurity issues, and we host conversations around the city for people who are done with church but not done with God. So we like to cultivate those conversations, which is gnarly because we get into pop culture and politics and faith and you name it, we get into it. Super fun. We do it in a bar. It's a lot of fun. And I also work in as a what's called vibrant living person within a very large senior living company. So which I spend a lot of my time.
Yeah, that's a new addition for you here recently, right?
It is a new addition. I've been doing it about 9 months, and I really have learned to love the kind of the older population, especially the older population involving in memory care.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't care how successful you are or how much money you have in the bank, you're still lonely. So being able to interact with these people on a regular basis has been a lot of fun and super consistent with who I am.
Yes.
I tell people all the time, like pastoring and then working within senior living, very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes
it's just totally similar. People in the church, what are people looking for? They're looking for purpose, looking for value, looking for identity, all that kind of stuff. Senior living, they're looking for the same exact thing.
Yeah. That's
purpose,
so great.
value, identity, awareness, that kind of stuff.
And
we live in.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think, knowing you in this role, I thought the same thing too when you shared like that's the direction you're going. And I think that's a segment of our society that I think just continues to be. They used to have a more defined role in society. The elderly did, and that is changing. And as I'm sure you've seen, I think some of the saddest things are, especially when they are in any sort of assisted care situation, basically when family members who once saw them regularly now don't. And there's just can be
Correct.
a lack of family connection and care. So you provide really, Andy, I would say Caleb is really kind of the director of fun and experience. Isn't that really?
I may be a cruise boat director.
I don't know. This is what I imagined.
I think I am. Like I would say, we're a cruise boat on land that doesn't go anywhere because we just do like events after events after events, and I think I am. There's this one lady, because I play music and stuff. She's totally now just calls me Liberace, and I don't know why. Like this, and the worst part is I answer to it.
Oh, okay. So wow. All right. Well,
so I've just accepted it. Like I've just accepted the fact.
As long as you and Mel have had a conversation about that, I'm sure it's fun.
I looked at her one day. I said, "Do you know what you're calling me?" She goes, "Nope. I just think it's fun."
Okay, good for you. So really, you're kind of like here's what he is. He's a youth pastor for older folks,
for old people.
That's what it is.
100% pastor.
Gosh, that's so cool.
Wow.
It's full circle, really.
As long as you don't do like sleepovers and
like lock-ins. You're not doing lock-ins with the older folks. No, that's.
That's memory care. It's a lock-in all the time.
Oh man,
assisted living jokes. That's where we've gotten to now. Hey, so so Caleb, one really, I mean, and Andy and I both consider it a great joy and treasure to have you as a friend, and in our friendship, we've obviously all shared many stories, life experiences, things like this, and Andy and I, because we have this show, we can't help it. Anytime that we're having a conversation with a friend, Andy, I'm sure you do this too, and a good story is shared, I just tuck it way back in the old portfolio of people
we can bring on the show.
We need to bring on the show.
And that's what we did. So Caleb and I were sitting at Applebee's one night in Florida where you weren't there. I'm going to bring it up again. You weren't there. Yep. And Caleb shared this story with me. And I said, we have to have you on the show. And so I messaged him this last week or whatever and said, hey, will you come on the show? And
your time has come.
And you said, absolutely. So can you, let's start by telling me a little bit, wherever you want to start with this story. If you want to start at the Applebee's, no, not really. But start wherever you want to start with your story of recent things that you recently learned about your family.
Yeah. So I'm 40. And I learned,
but you don't look a day over 39. But I just want to put that out there.
That's great, because all of this information that I'm going to share with you, I learned at 39.
Yeah, great. Okay, good.
Yeah. So this is new stuff to me. So long story short, or long story long, it doesn't matter. I was raised by two absolutely wonderful, God-fearing parents. I'm one of 5 children. They did the best that they could do. I never once in a million years thought anything other than I got good parents. They're not perfect, but they're good parents. They've been there for me my whole life. I was very close to my father, all that kind of stuff. And hey, my wife just joined in.
Yeah.
And
so hi, Melissa.
So I like I said, raised with my great parents, I have great siblings, all that kind of stuff. And, but there's always been a little bit of a joke in my family. So my parents had lifelong, when I tell you lifelong, I'm talking 40 plus years, best friends. And these best friends were always around. They were always around. So we were at every family function together, every 4th of July, every birthday, endless pool parties. So much so that we had these moments where you wouldn't be able to tell per se where the family lines start and friendships start. Line, you can't. The line was just blurred. Everybody has those friends. We have some friends in our life that way. You just don't know where those lines are. And but it's always been a little bit of a joke that my mom and this other person who we called Uncle Bill were very close. I don't fault that. I've been very close with a lot of people in my life. It was very, very normal for me. And so one day, my brother, who I deeply love, who's a knucklehead, you guys would love to have him on the show. He goes and thinks it'd be funny because this joke's been going on, and he buys me an ancestry test. So I'm like, he gives it to me one morning. I'm like, screw it. And I spit in the cup. I send it away. And Didn't think much about it. In fact, Joel, I was out in Indiana when the results were being processed.
Yes.
Because we were sitting around a fire, and I was like, "Hey guys, by the way, there may be a chance I'm doing a DNA test." It was me and you and Tyler and a couple other people, and we're like, see, about a bunch of people were there, and it was like, "Oh, do tell how this ends up."
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always been this joke in the family, so much for Bill. My dad died 4 years ago. My dad died going on 5 years ago. Bill died 2.5 years ago. And so I officiated their funerals. I officiated Bill's funeral, officiated my dad's funeral. And I remember, I went back and I listened to it's like, funeral homes, they record everything now, and then you can go back on their website and listen. So I went and I listened, and I had a very challenging time getting through it. And in fact, I said these words, and I quote, "I buried my dad 4 years ago, and this is just as hard."
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I didn't know why. I didn't know why, but I feel like on some subconscious level, there was a why. There was something going on there. So I'm sitting at the poolside last summer, and just scrolling my email. A bunch of people from Reviver there. We just got done grilling, and the way, I don't know if you guys have done an ancestry test.
I have.
They're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So you just get an email, and in that email, you have a breakdown of where you're from, and your breakdown national stuff and all that kind of stuff, and what parts of the world. But then at the bottom of it, in your field of view, you have thumbnails of anyone else who has taken an ancestry test. If you've matched them, your cousin, whatever, that kind of stuff. And I look at it, and my sister, who I was raised with, says, Harmony, half-sister. And directly next to that is two other sisters that I didn't know were sisters, that I've known them my whole life. And I see their pictures. And it says half-sisters. And at that point, I said a whole bunch of things out loud with my mouth that I probably shouldn't. I was just like, ah! And people who love me, they're like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm like, I just found this out. I think Bill's my daddy. That's what I said. And that's exactly what I said, actually. And so they come up that I have a different father.
Wow.
So I had to deal with that. I made phone calls and things like that. But the weird part is I never went to and I haven't even yet to this day, I never went to a spot of anger or that kind of stuff. Do I have questions? Absolutely. But I wasn't I've been, my whole life's a lie, or it never came out that way. I did get in the car, and my first stop the next morning, I drove to Bill. So this person I just found as my dad, I drove to his grave. And I feel like I needed to do that because I was the one there officiating his funeral. So he went into the ground, and I had one set of knowledge, and I needed to go back there by myself and have some level of closure or some level of just awareness of the situation. And then Mel and I drove to my mom's. And I walked in the door and sat down on her little ottoman in her house and said, "I took an ancestry test, and this is what it is." And fully was sitting there waiting for excuses or all this kind of stuff. And she just looked at me and went, "That happened." It happened. Totally owned it. And what do you do with that?
Right.
That level of on it. And you have to immediately go to a place of grace and empathy and all that kind of stuff, because you typically don't get that in life.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's all, we make so many decisions laced in shame and all this kind of stuff that we don't often just have those raw, honest things. But I did ask, and I was like, well, why didn't we tell, if you knew this may happen? And it came out as and I have understanding for it now. It's did we kind of know? Yes. Did we have hard fact evidence 40 years ago? No. But now that we do, absolutely this happened.
Wow.
And really nothing has like changed. If anything, I've gone to a spot where I am like weirdly grateful. I say this in the weirdest way, like weirdly grateful that not many people can say that when they in this situation, when they find out like parent stuff or that kind of stuff, it's either somebody was there or somebody wasn't there. And I somehow got 37 years of both of these men in my life.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like they were there. They were there for birthdays. They were there for Christmases. They were there for Super Bowl parties. They were present. And they knew. And that's the part that they knew.
So the guy that you grew up thinking, was your dad, he knew all along. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so I asked my mom into it. I said, obviously you guys knew something had happened. And she said, yes. She went and talked to him about it. And it's hard to explain this if you don't know my dad, but my dad always, he had a really rough childhood. So like conflict was not his bag. So like he didn't take on fights he should have taken on. Like he just chose peace, even when it caused a lot of things to be like bottled up and suppressed and pushed down. He was just like, I'm not fighting. When we were kids, we'd get in arguments. He just burst in the room and be like, no arguing. Not like, what are you arguing about? Maybe there's a real problem. He was just like arguing bad, not doing it. So that was his personality. And so when mom went to him and said, hey, this may have happened. I mean, obviously they're living, could be either with one. He was just like, we're never talking about this again. That's my son. That's enough. And he just never treated me any different. At all.
I mean, good on him.
Yeah.
Like
good on him. Freaking good on him.
Yeah.
Like, wow. The fact that you never had, like, I think that's amazing. Like, as a father, you're just like he was able to approach you and treat you just like any of the other kids, and that you had no like experiential, as far as like your experience with him, you were none the wiser.
Not 1 second.
Yeah.
Of my life.
Well, and
here's the thing.
I was going to say, I imagine that can go multiple ways too, because I mean, he could have also been super mad at your mom, and so that could have affected their relationship. But as far as you know, that didn't affect like their
and they probably had some pretty rough conversations, I would guess. But
right.
This is the part that gets me, and that I have a lot of empathy for now more than ever, I think. So this is 1983. So it's like, no, it's probably like mid 1982, because I was born in 83, February of 83. They're in the height of like the evangelical church movement at an assembly at a Baptist church. Bill and Cheryl are at a Baptist church. They each have 4 kids. Each. There was no grace for any of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It literally would have blown families apart. Like literally blown it apart. So I'm grateful that the 4 of them figured it out.
Yeah.
And held their families together.
Yeah.
Like there's barely any grace for that now.
Yeah.
Then it was just like you harlot or whatever the word is, get out.
Right.
Like it was just, there was nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they didn't have to go through that.
Yeah. As we've had other conversations with folks who have, there was some sort of family relational dynamic, that kind of overlaps with what you're saying. But again, back in days gone by, I think that's one emerging theme that I've heard again and again is just like, there was no place for that kind of conversation. There was no way to navigate that because it was socially, there weren't the structures of how do you come back from that? How do you how do you have a life that is still that's together and united and all of that. So these your parents and this other couple, I mean, they just continued on in the same, like, from your experience, like their relationship as two couples that were spending time together and whatever just continued on
for my entire life. Like if I wasn't,
for real,
I can tell you, dude, if I spent one time a week in a restaurant with the four of them, that's conservative.
Okay,
my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so my biological father's gone now. But I will go to his wife's 80th birthday next week.
Mm.
So still friends. Their family is still friends.
Do you think that part of that was maybe also, I mean, obviously they were good friends before that, but do you think part of that was because also he wanted to stay in your life and continue to father you without necessarily fathering you?
So one of the things that that's a deep and great question. One of the things that I referenced when I went back and I listened to the message that I spoke at his funeral, and I said these words. Bill was a very quiet man. He didn't talk very much, but I said I spent thousands of hours sitting on a front porch swing with this man and him never saying anything. Mm. And I do think that he was just present in my life because he wanted to be, and knew that probably the depth of information and awareness was never going to be fully there. So just stayed close. And I look at that as a gift. Like, of course, like I would have done the same thing. Like, and it's weird, like when I look at pictures, like I look like him. My brother doesn't.
You know that. Yeah.
My brother doesn't look like it's like, yeah. So like, I do think it was intentional, and I wonder. I mean, I think everybody's got skeletons in their closets. You're not married for 40, 50, 55 years, and you didn't have some really rough years. Nobody. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been married 18 years. We've had some rough years. You go like, that's going to happen. So I'm just wondering if there was just like a communal like grace for each other, like amongst the four of them going, I was in a rough patch then, you're going to be in a rough patch then. Like almost an understanding of it that things happen, you know? I'm not justifying the behavior, but I'm also, somebody said something to me once. They were like, well, don't you wish this didn't happen? And I was like, no. Me wishing this doesn't happen wishes me out of existence.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
My five children out of existence.
Yeah. Wow. Yep.
Like, no, I don't wish this didn't happen. I'm thrilled it happened because I get to live.
Yeah. Yeah. What's such a great example?
I have one.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, there's only one regret I have. If I had one regret, I wish that after my dad died, I wish that somebody who knew more than I knew, this is before like I took the ancestry test and that kind of stuff, would have said, hey, dude, there may be a possibility. Mm. Because I feel like I would have been more intentional on those next 2 years than I was. So that's the only thing that if I had said, like, man, I wish it would have gone a different way. That's the only one I have. I don't wish my childhood was different. I don't wish the relationships were different. I wish that last 2 years after my dad was gone, I would have had more information, because I probably would have been a fair bit more intentional about stewarding that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's always, hindsight's always 20/20, and it's like, I think
right.
It's something that we all, like, you try to think about, now, like, I know for me, like, so my dad's retiring this coming here at the end of the spring, and it is going to enter in kind of a different season of life. And, my dad's good, but I will say, like, in the back of my mind, I am thinking, like, okay, it feels like there's a new chapter of, there can be some new chapters of intentionality now, as, he has time freed up. And obviously, like, my time is as full as ever, but figuring out, like, how I can continue to, like, involve my dad, even more. When I hear stories like yours, it's like, it just keeps on coming back to, it's strange, like, how we find ourselves distanced from our parents in like, it can feel like a challenge, depending on your family. It can feel like a challenge to, like, work our parents as they get older, like, into the regular rhythm of our life, somehow. And I think
I totally understand that.
You know what I'm saying? And
oh gosh, yes.
And I don't know. I think, as you're saying this, I think just what comes to my mind is like, figure that out. Like, some way. The way I've managed, and Andy, you might be able to relate to this. The way I've managed to work my parents continually into our life is to have them care for our children.
I mean, everyone's looking for value. Like,
that's right.
Like, everyone's looking for value.
We're super, and the same thing for my in-laws too. Like, we're super fortunate that they're nearby, and that in the hustle and bustle that they want to hang out with our kids, which is it's super great. But man, it's a good.
No, I think that's important though. It's important to, like, for you guys to be having that conversation, because I was the last of 5, I was younger. So my sister I'm 40, my sister's 50. So there's a 10-year spread. Are your parents all living?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a really hard thing. Like, they die.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they do. And, like, now experience that twice, like, both Bill and my dad gone. You do, like, you got to be intentional, like, because the day comes, it creeps up on you quicker than you think. And then it's like, especially, I don't know where you are in your birth orders, if you guys are older or younger and that kind of stuff, and age of your folks and stuff. But, like, I was, like, surprised that I was in my mid 30s burying my father.
Yeah.
Like, that was like, I remember that feeling, going, Jolie, my sister, she got 10 more years than I got.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Like, and that kind of that, and I'm spoken, and that sounds just like a baby child, like a fifth born. It's like, I didn't get my fair share. Like, you jerks. It's so consistent with the birth order stuff. But I did feel that way. I'm like, you got 10 extra years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So you as a father now, the question is always for us, like, when you've been on this journey, you're still processing things. I'm sure these thoughts come to you. Like, I'm sure there are numerous daily or weekly scenarios in which you're doing something, and then this comes to your mind on a regular. I'm sure of that.
Very regular.
What is you and like, as you and Mel have talked through this many times, and like, what do you feel like the further impact on your own parenting is? Like, what would have been some of the takeaways for you guys? And I know that not everything is, like, directly like, you're always, it's like, as the teacher, you're always trying to, like, figure out, like, okay, what are the teaching principles out of this that we can apply? But it's not always a clear, like, A to B, track. But how has it formed you? Like, how has it impacted your relationship with your wife, with your kids? Like, what do you think? Like, what do you feel like the process has been like there on that side?
That's good. So as far as, like, my kids, I did make an intentional decision that I would share the details of this as they aged appropriately.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because, yes, my father may not have been my biological father, but he is their grandfather.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
and was wildly in love with them. Mm-hmm. And I don't want them to ever question any of that.
Right.
Like none of that. So my older boys are well aware of the situation. I told them very early on. My youngers, bits and pieces as they get older, I will continue to kind of bring them in as they can process this, as they, can understand. I mean, if I told my youngest about this, then I have to start talking about babies and where they come from. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like a whole thing. It's a whole thing, which I probably should be doing anyhow. But nobody wants to do that. But so that's a whole thing. I think as far as like how for Mel and I don't really know how much this has like affected us. As much as kind of almost like, well, yeah, that checks out.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Like it's more so like, I see that. You do look like him. You are a completely different personality than my brother. My brother's a carbon copy of my dad. It makes sense why I'm a different personality.
Right.
Like I'm literally different.
Yeah.
So I think those kind of things have like begin to come into the light of going, oh, that's why. Oh, you're not shy. You're just quiet around strangers.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with you. Like, well, my biological father was insanely quiet around strangers. Like he never talked.
Yeah.
I probably heard him say 500 words in my life. And he's just always there, but never talked. So that kind of stuff I feel like has kind of been more of just like, oh, that checks out. Oh, that checks out. Oh, that makes sense.
Gotcha.
That's been helpful. I don't think it's really like driven us like apart or together any kind of way. More so like, yeah. I think it's been hard. I think on my mom that I know that dynamic has been challenging. I think she really wanted me to, in fact, I know she did because she kept asking me over and over again. Like she wanted me to be mad.
Oh.
And I think it's probably because of the level of guilt that she'd carried for so many years. She's like convinced herself he deserves to be mad. And so she kept asking me repeatedly, why aren't you mad? Why aren't you upset? And I'm like, I'm not, because I'm grateful that I'm a person and I'm here and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's probably been some emotional energy that maybe as Mel and I have expended just kind of dealing with that aspect of it, of helping her realize we're not mad at you. We're not upset. We're not awkward. None of these things are happening. Those are conversations we didn't have to have a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then that part, it's had a little bit of kind of a drain. But also understand why she would feel that way.
Yeah. And I think
just hit me and get it over with kind of thing,
Right. Well, I think too, as an adult, you can kind of see why she didn't want to necessarily tell you earlier, like as if
I totally understand.
Right. As if it would have come out, when you were 15 or 16, like that you probably would have handled it a lot differently. But as an adult now, you kind of you can understand why she wouldn't want to necessarily tell you those things.
I was having this conversation with someone. I'm about to speak facts I don't know about, but I read something about like the development of especially the male brain and actually the inability to fully understand like consequences and risk and things like that.
No.
And it's like, right? It's like, why are you at 18 years old, 18-year-old, you'll climb a ladder. And then at 27, you're like, it's a long way down. Like what shifts?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the ability to like see the long-term thing shifts. And you're right. At 15 or 16, I probably wouldn't have been able to be where I'm at now with that information. Just like physically probably couldn't even have comprehended it.
Yeah. The grace that has been extended to this situation, I think is immensely important. And I think that's like what I hear is how powerful that for God's grace to you guys in the midst of it, and like that was extended, and the way that you've reciprocated that, I think you just see the power of it to take what could be a situation wrought with so many landmines at every direction for your immediate biological family, for any other family that was connected to this on the periphery, all of that. How, well, like grace dismantles all of that. Like it just like, and like, you know, it just doesn't, like, there's no like, I don't see the power of regret, anger, hatred, bitterness, and this, and I say this with just the most love and respect for you, Caleb. Like, the way that you have responded has given others the opportunity to walk forward without shame or guilt. And I think it's just really, really powerful. Like, in a world, like, as you said, like back in the day, in certain social contexts where it would have been like just the mere uncovering of this would have just like ripped people apart. This thing has actually brought people. It's brought people together. And you guys are staying together, and that's really just really, really beautiful. I'm grateful for that. And I think anybody that's listening, I hope that you hear, like, honesty met with grace and love can just start a whole series of really redeeming events coming out of it. If you like, and whatever it is, I mean, it doesn't have to be the particularities of this situation, which are, I mean, that's, you know, that's a thing. That's quite a scenario, right? But, I mean, Caleb, what would you like? Because as you've experienced this, and as I'm listening to you talk about it, it just seems, I think that's one thing I'm just really caught by. I'm really struck by is, it's kind of like you're waiting for this, maybe like your mom felt. And like you said, with this guilt and like, why aren't you angry? Whatever, like was just waiting for this kind of like nuclear option basically. And none of that happened. And like, what is one left to conclude? Like, what is one left to conclude other than something pretty holy has happened there? Like, kind of beyond explanation.
For me, this is my like first time, like head on faced with it. Here it is. It's your business. It's your story, grappling with how I view Jesus in the upside down kingdom.
There you go. Yeah.
Like this is upside down stuff. Like Jesus literally did it the other way. And to like, I know that, and I've experienced that with other people, but to like have to like deal with it yourself and actually go, the only response is love and understanding and grace and moving forward. Like that is the most paramount quality of Jesus. That's it. It's like how many times did he look at somebody in their sin and was just like so rattled by their sin, and he couldn't even move forward because he was so rattled by it. He just simply loved them and offered a new perspective.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. Like, but I've here pastored all these years, 40 years old. I never had to like deal with it. Like it was always someone else's story.
Right. Yeah.
But that thing came home to roost, and I'm like, oh, this is me. This is people I know, I love, I care about, and I'm getting offered a new response.
Yep.
So that's my takeaway. It's like it's some upside down kingdom crap.
Yeah. Supernatural. Yeah. I mean, really. I think that's what strikes me. There's one really bad part about this. And so my mother is from Charleston, West Virginia. It's where all my bloodline comes from. And so the only thing worse than that is now my biological father, all his bloodline comes from Beckley, West Virginia, which makes me 100% West Virginian. So the jokes, they abound. I'm sure.
They're deep. They are wide and they are true.
Your life's a John Denver song.
My life is a John Denver song. Take me home, sweet country roads.
Oh, that's great.
I am also like John Denver. I'm actually never was lived in West Virginia. Neither did he.
Yeah.
He was like from Colorado or something.
Yeah, false advertising. Absolutely. Caleb, man, thank you for just
Thanks
sharing
for having
that.
me, guys.
It was good. It's the story, but then it's like, I think, that core realization, and what you've learned from it. It's always weird when the things that we mentally assent to in our life actually become like come home, like you said, come home to roost, but come home to dwell in our own situation, in our own hearts. And it is, and I think for all of us, I mean, that's what I desire for anybody, that a life of truth and love are not just ideas. Mm-hmm. That they're not just ideas that we we agreed to in the way that we agree to any other kind of alleged fact in our life, but rather that it takes up a residence in our heart. So, so good. Well, because we can't end on a super deep and emotional topic. It is indeed time.
Let's not do that.
We gotta finish in I don't know, an upbeat manner. So yeah.
Now it's time for Dudes and Dads Pop Quiz.
Oh, thank you.
Where are we going with this?
All right. So
This is happening now.
if you have never joined us, the Dudes and Dads Pop Quiz is just a time that we ask Caleb random questions and he has to answer. So, all right.
I'm going to take some from the deck this time.
All right.
Yeah. Ooh, take a card. Any card.
Just take the whole
thing.
deck.
Oh, perfect.
So we actually have a deck that says can't get the pod decks.
I saw black cards and I was wondering what kind of deck that was.
Interview questions. So
it's like they're like tarot cards. We're just going to flip them and see. I'm kidding. That's not true. Okay.
Wow. I'll go first. Caleb, what is left on your bucket list?
Northern Lights. Desperately want to see the Northern Lights. And I want to, Northern Lights is really, really, really high on my list. And I'd like to go on a safari.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have done it. I want to do that.
Yeah, that's good. Has your brother been on a safari?
My brother's been on probably more safaris than he can count.
I would imagine. So this yet again here
he was on a safari he was on safari like last week in Tanzania.
Well, here you are yet again living in the shadow of the elder
I know. I'm always in the shadow, the big shadow.
When do I get to go on a safari? Okay. Caleb, what's your favorite gadget?
Oh, favorite gadget is I really Mel just got it and I used it the other day. It's like this mandolin thing in the kitchen that like shaves and cuts and puts it all in it's handy. I don't know how to explain it, but you can cut up a lot of stuff really, really fast.
Which is I love all. It's of
handy.
I love it.
It's handy. It's the definition of handy.
If you had someone following you around all of the time, what would you have them do?
I would have them just tell me where to go next.
Oh,
that's good.
Because I'm really good in the moment, and often I'm not very good in the schedule. So just tell me to leave the room and go somewhere else. I'll just do it. I'm very compliant.
That's great. Caleb, this could go deep. Caleb, when you die, what do you want to be remembered for?
I'm glad we're ending on a light note.
I know, right?
You should stop saying that, Joel.
Took a turn.
The death always comes.
I tried so hard.
I'd like to be known. I know this is cliche, but I want to really be remembered as someone who was a good husband and a really good dad.
That's why you're on the show.
That's high priority to me.
Good.
And I fail at both of those regularly. But it is important to me.
Yeah. What do you value most in your friends?
I have a small subset of friends that I don't have to change who I am at all. like good, bad, and the ugly. So I can cut up with them. I can have a good day with them. I can have a horrible day with them, and they're not going to view me differently. Or if they do view me differently, they're going to tell me they view me differently. Like they're going to call my cards on it.
Yeah.
I have a small segment of those type of friends, and those are the ones that I want to be around a fireplace with. Yeah.
Caleb, what's the worst job that you've ever had?
Oh, worst job. The only job I actually got fired from.
Oh, well,
tell us more.
Yeah, please tell.
Yeah. So I was all through high school. I thought it'd be really cool to work for Starbucks because it was all trendy. And remember earlier I said I need someone to tell me what to do because I just talk to people and lose track of things. The job sucked and hours are horrible. And this really nice guy came in and we were chatting one night and I made him a drink and I was like, don't worry about it. And he was like, hey, have a great night. And then the next morning I came to work and I got fired because he was a secret shopper.
Oh.
Apparently they take a dim view of that.
Well,
that feels like entrapment, quite honestly.
It does. You know what though, Joel? My Starbucks story is actually more embarrassing. I don't know about more embarrassing, but it's embarrassing. So one time we're driving through the drive-thru and my wife is sitting in the car with me. So Julie's next to me and the guy hands me my drink out the window. And before I pull off, I said, thanks, I love you, bye. And then pulled off, not even thinking about it. And my wife was like, did you just tell him that you loved him? And I'm like, oh my goodness, I did. So that.
Oh, have you ever said amen at the end of a voicemail?
I don't think I have.
I've done that.
All right, give me a call.
You just say amen.
Thanks, bye, amen. All right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Do you have another question?
My last question, and then you can ask your last one. What is one bad habit that you are trying to get rid of?
I probably cuss more than I should.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But I like how he's like,
yeah,
I think I might be trying to get. I think I might be trying to stop.
Do I really want to stop? That's my.
I mean, I also believe that sometimes profanity is where the brain goes to take a break.
That's there you go.
But like I'm trying. Like every once in a while, I'll say something in front of the kids, and Mel's like, "Dude," I'm like, "I've totally forgot."
Yeah. There. Oh, that's right. We have
a beep button. Yes,
we do have a beep button. Not that we have to use it often on the show, but the fact that Andy programmed that in, it's like he's anticipating the day that I go nuclear and just like something comes off the rails. I don't know.
Oh my gosh,
Caleb, my last question for you is: what are you currently curious about?
I am currently curious about this is gonna be weird. We have a lot of friends who are in a lot of different relationships, like conventional, unconventional, and that kind of stuff. And I am curious at times what other, like how that works.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because like we grow up in this idea, it's like the only way to have a relationship is to be married and be married really young with no money and all this kind of stuff, and then develop your life together. And I see people who chose different paths, and they're for all intents and purposes happy and experiencing love and connection, all that kind of stuff. And I'm curious, of like how did that happen? Like,
yeah,
so it's more like relationship styles and things like that. I'm curious about.
Sure, yeah.
Well, you've successfully passed.
What way to go, Caleb? Way to nail that.
Yeah, man, that was tough. I'm so hot in here.
Yeah, it was a high pressure situation. But Caleb, thank you again for being on the show. Thanks for joining us, sharing your story.
Thank you.
We're delighted to have you as a friend. I think
yes.
I can say that without hesitation.
I think the 600 miles between our places is too long.
It is too long. And I'm going to put this, here's the deal, just in case Jackie, my wife, is listening currently or will listen in the future.
Offer stands.
Thank you. You beat me to it.
Offer stands.
Every break, fall or spring break, I try my best. I go, I hear Annapolis is beautiful this time of year. That's what I go to. So we will come and visit you for sure. Okay, well, hey, as always, guys, you can send your emails over to dudesanddadspodcast@gmail.com.
Or our voicemail number. We like those voicemails. 574-213-8702.
And you can head over to dudesanddadspodcast.com for all the show notes, all the goodies. Maybe you want to, I don't know, connect with Caleb. We'll blast his socials up on there. We'll make him connectable.
Absolutely.
Because you need to know someone like him out in Bowie, Maryland.
You need to have a place to go. You need to have a place to go during vacation.
Yeah, if you need a place to go on vacation. Guys, we're super grateful for you listening and tuning in. Thanks for hanging out with us. And until next time, we wish you grace
and peace.
Be sure to share the podcast on your favorite social media channels.